Hello and welcome. I am Jacqueline Rose, and it is Women's Health Wednesday Live, and I am so happy to have you here. Today, we are talking about thyroid function and dysfunction, our thyroid hormones when it comes to testing. If you're on thyroid medication, you want to be paying attention. Today is all about thyroid. Now, the thyroid conversation is complicated. It is not easy. And so I'm going to try and make this as simple as possible, but this is going to be part one. I will be doing other thyroid episodes because it is a complicated, complex topic. Why? Because of the way the thyroid is connected to lots of other things going on in our body. Thyroid does not work alone. And in everything that I am teaching and sharing with you, especially on the Women's Health Wednesday live episodes, I want you to start realizing that our specific organs or specific glands or specific hormones do not work in isolation. And that means that when something is out of whack, it usually means that there is a trigger, there is a source, something else is usually out of whack also. And that absolutely applies to the thyroid. So today we're going to talk about thyroid. I'm going to try and break it down and make it as simple as possible, but I will talk about thyroid again in other episodes because it is connected to adrenal glands, to adrenal function, to stress, to gut health, to fertility, to a lot of things going on. But today we're going to try and make it as simple as possible. I'm going to explain what thyroid is, how our doctors measure thyroid function, and why, spoiler alert, it is not giving us the real clear picture of what's happening with our thyroid and what things we should be looking for. Okay, so let's start with the basics. What is the thyroid? It is a little gland over here. It's a bit of a butterfly shape. It sits over here. Thyroid gland produces thyroid hormones, not TSH, which is always thought of as a thyroid hormone. We're going to get to that in a second. It produces a hormone. One of the hormones it produces is called T3. T3 is the inactive form of our thyroid hormone, and T3 has to be transferred into T4. Let me just make sure I've got that the right way around. And T4. Thyroid produces T4, which is the inactive form, and it is converted into T3. T3 is the active form. It is converted, important for later on, in the liver. So thyroid produces T4. T4 goes into the liver, is converted into T3, and then T3 goes into all the cells of our body, and that's where the thyroid function really happens, okay, via this T3 hormone that goes into every single cell of our body. Now, what does thyroid do via this conversion of T4 hormone into T3 in our bodies? Regulates breathing, heart rate, nervous system, metabolism, muscle strength, menstrual cycle, body temperature, cholesterol levels. The thyroid is a regulating mechanism. It is releasing hormones that regulate lots of different things in our body, which is why if your thyroid is not working properly, if you have hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism, under or overactive thyroid, it's going to be felt in every single part of the body. As I said, nervous system function, stress, metabolism, weight gain, thinning hair, cold extremities, fertility issues, digestive issues, so many things, so many symptoms potentially can be related to our thyroid, which is why good balanced thyroid function is so important, and why inactive or underactive thyroid can show up in so many different ways. Okay, having understood all of that, how do we know if we have a thyroid issue? So I want us to look at thyroid, how we test and how we look at thyroid function, and that is through blood work. And most usually we will be testing TSH. Your doctor, if you're going to the doctor with some type of symptoms that may be related to thyroid, it may not be related to thyroid, it may be related to other things, but we need to assess, is it thyroid or not? The first thing the doctor will do is test your thyroid. And they test it with a hormone called TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. Thyroid stimulating hormone, as the name suggests, is not one of the hormones produced by the thyroid. It is produced by the pituitary glands. That is then released by the pituitary gland, which is in the brain, to trigger the thyroid to start releasing that T4 hormone that we talked about. The pituitary gland is triggered by the hypothalamus. So we have two things that happen in our body before the thyroid even starts functioning. The hypothalamus is triggered, that releases a hormone that then triggers the pituitary gland, that then releases the TSH hormone, that then activates the thyroid. So when doctors are checking in our blood work TSH, that is actually not telling us if our thyroid is functioning correctly. It is only telling us if the thyroid is being triggered appropriately by the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland, if our TSH value is low or high or out of range, that is only telling us about pituitary function. It's not telling us about thyroid function. It is telling us about the message that is passed down to the thyroid, but it's not actually telling us about thyroid function. It's not telling us about how much T4 is being released. It's not telling us about conversion from T4 to the active hormone T3 that then goes into our cells. It's not telling us about how effective T3 is being in the cells. So when our doctors tell us that we have an out of balance thyroid, some type of thyroid dysfunction, hypothyroidism, usually hypothyroidism is the most common form. The extreme case of hypothyroidism is Hashimoto's, if you've ever heard of that. Hyperthyroidism, the most extreme form, is Graves' disease. That is only telling us about, often if you're being tested, TSH. So the long and short of it is, if you want to know if your symptoms are related to thyroid function, your doctor needs to do a full thyroid panel blood work. It is not enough just to do TSH and base the assessment of thyroid function on TSH. We need to look at a full thyroid panel. What does a full thyroid panel look like? As we said, T3, T4, reverse T3, reverse T4, free T3, free T4, and anti-TPO, are antibodies of thyroid, which will show us if there's some type of inflammation going on related to thyroid. So I always advise my clients, when they say either they've been on thyroid medication for a long time or they're showing symptoms that potentially could be related to thyroid, you need a full thyroid panel. TSH does not determine whether you have a thyroid dysfunction or not. At the same way, you may have a normal TSH, and that won't determine if all the other elements of your thyroid are working properly, because you may have other symptoms that are determining whether or not you have dysfunction in other areas of the thyroid function. So really, really super important. If you have been told you have a thyroid issue, you need to have a full thyroid panel done. TSH is not enough. Assessing T4, it's not enough. If your numbers are out of whack in all the different elements, or certain elements, certain blood markers are out of whack, then we can start looking at, okay, what else is going on? Why is the thyroid function not in balance? And how can we start to heal your thyroid function? Because as you're beginning to hear, there are lots of different ways to heal thyroid function. Medication is only one. If there is a real imbalance in thyroid function, possibly including an out of range or out of balance TSH, we need to start looking at pituitary gland. Why is the pituitary gland? What's impacting pituitary gland? Spoiler alert, it's going to often be stress or inflammation. So stress and inflammation are one of the key reasons why our pituitary gland may not be releasing appropriate TSH levels. And then let's say everything is fine with TSH, but you are experiencing symptoms, and then we do a full blood panel and we see T4 levels are not great. So then we can start asking, what's going on with the thyroid? Why is the thyroid not functioning properly? Let's say T4 is being released. So our thyroid is actually releasing the appropriate T4 levels, but it's not converting to T3. Our T3 levels are very, very low. Then we can start saying, okay, T4 gets converted into T3 in the liver. So we can start saying, okay, so maybe we've got some type of liver issue going on. Maybe we need to look at liver support or liver detoxification. And then we can understand why T3 is not being produced at the levels it needs to be produced. Let's say T3 is being produced, but it's not being absorbed, being taken in by the cells. For some reason, the receptor cells are not welcome or clutching on or absorbing that T3. So then we need to look further down. Why are my cells, what's going on in my cells at the cellular level? My mitochondria may not be working. There must be something going on, inflammation at the cellular level, that even though I'm producing the T3, it's not being absorbed by the cells. The cells aren't able to use it. And so I've got these symptoms. So I know it's complicated. I know it's sort of, when we start looking at from a functional perspective at our symptoms, we start to trace back the why, the root cause. How does the mechanism work? At what point is there a breakdown in the mechanism? It's not enough just to say my TSH levels are off and therefore I have a thyroid problem. As you can see, it's not that simple. It is quite complicated, and it requires a little bit more investigation and a lot more analysis of our blood work to really understand what is going on. One blood marker is only one piece of the puzzle, and that piece of the puzzle is not giving us any information about what is going on in the other pieces of the puzzle. And if you are experiencing symptoms, again, which may or may not be related to thyroid, but to assess and to ascertain if it is thyroid related, we need a full thyroid panel. So this is part one, as I said, of the thyroid topic. It is complicated, as you can understand. It is related to hypothalamus function, pituitary gland function, thyroid function, liver function, cellular level function. It is related to a lot of other blood markers, not just TSH. And then once we start to see where the weak links are, we can then start to adopt treatment strategies at the stage where there is the weak link. Taking medication to improve your TSH level is only putting a band-aid at the very last link in the chain, or maybe the very sort of non-relevant link in the chain, if the problem is all the way down at the liver. So we will talk about this more. For more videos like this about all topics related to women's health, check my YouTube link below that is in the comments. You can go back and have a look at a lot of other topics we've discussed on Women's Health Wednesday Live. Come back next Wednesday. We will be talking about other topics. But if you've enjoyed today's topic, and if you've had this wow, oh my gosh, aha moment of, yes, my doctor said my TSH level was fine, but I don't feel fine, or my TSH level has been off and I've been taking medication for 10 years, but it hasn't really helped, or I don't want to be on medication for 10 years. Maybe this all of a sudden has opened your eyes that the situation is more complicated than you thought. Drop me a comment, drop me a DM. I'd be very happy to go through your blood work with you to really begin to have a look and see what is really going on in your body. I wish you a wonderful Wednesday, and I look forward to seeing you next time.